starting up? Over there?
Probably.
Alright, I'm not gonna keep it plugged in, so I'll have to get over here.
Connection is weak. I don't think you can stand there. What does that button do?
Filters.
Ooh, acid. Wow.
Do you guys see it like that? Where it changed connection or colors? There you go. See, now those grips look really awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny.
That one looks really cool.
Yeah. Change the teal. Ew. Country's not so awesome.
Orange everywhere.
Oh.
Black and white.
Ah.
Okay. Connection is weak. Hello. Hello, hello.
3 people are watching. Go for it.
What, we can draw on it?
I don't know. Just stop. Okay.
Alright, we're going to talk about how to do some basic customizations. These are some of the ones we've done. Some of the things not to have happen.
What's going on there?
That's pitting from not having a sharp blade. Actually, it's a skew chisel.
We're also trying my tablet this week to see if it focuses on shit better, so bear with us. Yeah, here you go. Woohoo!
This one turned out a little better. Still had a little small spot there that chunked out.
Got it. There's some right there, and then that.
This one didn't have any pitting, but it turned out all kinds of wobbly.
Yeah, it was. You can see how crooked it is when it's up against something flat. But that's actually the one that we did that video of. We were like, what's it going to turn into?
This one, basic ellipticals, but we were taking some of the different tools from our wood carving set and seeing what they would do with it.
Yeah, that was our very, very first grip we ever put together. That's our practice one now.
Always sharpen your tools. And keep clean sandpaper. Always.
Yep, otherwise...
If there's any question, just sharpen it.
That's what happens.
You either get a nice one, or you get a chunky one.
Chunky's no good.
This is one we were attempting to make with a fellow builder.
Yep, we put these together thinking, ooh, this might be fun. And the way that I glued them, that did not turn out to be fun because of the yellow. If it wasn't for the yellow, you probably wouldn't have as big of a problem with it, but it's just the entire thing, once Wes stops moving it. See how crooked that line is? I did not do a good job gluing that up. And that's the thing with EVA, when you glue stuff up, anytime that it has a glue line, there will be a glue line. It does not go away.
Not that I've seen. Not when you have contrasting colors like that.
Actually, even
well, in the
with the
black
same
one, it's
color,
not as bad. But when you have the same color next to each other, you're gonna have a line.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's a way to get rid of it, but there could be. Another elliptical.
Not elliptical.
Get it?
Oh.
Eh?
I didn't think it was elliptical.
We'll have to check on that.
Maybe it is. I don't know.
This is what we're going to use tonight. Just basic pre-shaped foam. I think it's 6 inches, 8 inches. Yeah.
It's you can order that
right at 8 inches
anywhere.
And then we had some of these left over and already circled that we're going to just put in them. Does anybody have any questions so far? Another important factor.
Yeah, you gotta get all your proper tools. Whoop, 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 whoop. Wellwood, contact cement. Don't get the gel.
The gel works, but it gets everywhere.
I think the gel's messier.
It gets on everything. Now, I'll have this all over me, but the gel is worse, by far. Don't worry about that label. I smoke around it all the time.
What do you...
Alright.
Gilbert says, what makes the EVA foam to stiff up? What do you mean stiff up, Gilbert? Keep going.
On something like this, I would probably do something symmetrical. Either have them all three laying slanted like this. You could take all three at the end of one. I like symmetry. You could just randomly throw them in there, which might be what we end up doing.
Well, I would do one, just space it out since we only have three. I mean, actually, no, I want it in the middle. Let's do all three in the middle.
All three right here?
Yeah, but
Separated?
you gotta get them separated.
Okay. Alright. First thing we need to do is measure one of these and get the average size, because they're all different. Let's do this in millimeters.
What makes EVA foam hard after sanding?
The way it's cut.
What do you mean the way it's cut?
If you look here, if you press on that, how soft it is. This is that other foam. These are some of the billy blocks, but if you press in the center, you see how far you can push down? Now if you take something, this one's probably going to be the stiffest, like this, where there's a bunch of cuts, a bunch of glue lines, I'm really having to press into that. Now it will go down and it's softer in the gaps, but when you get all these lines together, it's pretty stiff.
Probably the glue and everything packed in there together.
You could burn the outside. That'll make it stiffer and give it a different texture. Never tested it. Don't know how long it'll last. But it does change it to a lot stiffer if you just take your heat gun on high and burn it.
I wouldn't recommend doing that.
No. I mean, if you
throw
want
that
to test
disclaimer
it,
in there.
feel free, but we're not going to recommend that.
Let's not take heat guns to EVA, ladies and gentlemen.
We've got to take out 4 millimeters.
The calipers are somewhere over there. So,
No. And watch out.
yeah, it's right here for one.
It'll reach on our left hand. Alright. So, I'm going to mark center. And that's where the center of one of those is going to go. Just like that.
Wait, what happened? Where'd you guys, did it cut off on y'all?
What happened?
I said it lost him. Dang, interrupted exactly. Is it pure EVA or Hypalon?
It's just EVA. It's not Hypalon.
Yeah, this is...
Hypalon is a lot stiffer than this.
Yeah, that's a normal grip you could buy from Mud Hole, Get Bit, wherever.
Yeah.
Batson, like those are the grips that you would buy if you were basically, you know.
And off the shelf.
You can't re-soften it, Gilbert. There's no way to soften it back after you've made the cuts and put glue in it. And somebody asked the other day in another group if you could return it back to its same texture from the beginning, and I don't think you can. But we're just now getting into it, so we'll figure it out.
That's too close.
That's way too close. So while Wes is working on making his marks on the grip to cut them apart and insert these guys, all of these blocks were made with what Billy sells. He sells, we're traveling over here to where all my stuff's stored. He sells blocks. You can get some from Mud Hole, but you can't get them in the colors that you can get them from Billy. Our big conglomeration of crap piled up. So there's neon orange, neon green, white, red. We have a little bit left of that red color that we're working with actually tonight. This one, these blocks are fun. There's so much you can do with them. They look like wood grain. So cool. And then there's purple. We've got yellow. This is like a charcoal. I got a navy blue. I also picked up some of these while we were at the show last year. They were at the Mud Hole booth, and because it was the wood grain, I wanted them because you never know what you can use these for. You can cut these into little sections and doing exactly what we're doing, and these are already shaped for you. So it's always going to be easier to square up patterns and work with patterns when you're working with a block. But when you're working with a circle, it's kind of hard. This is a screw up I did. I actually wasted a whole block. But I glued these two together. I was working on something and I didn't get the measurements right. And it looks like I glued part of the table to it too. But Billy's got some great colors. This is another one that we got our hands on. Who sent this to us?
That one came from DJ.
DJ had one. We worked out a deal with him. I am loving this pattern. I love it. I don't want to use it. I think Billy still got some, but I think he said he was selling them for $50 a block. Yeah. Something crazy like that, which I don't blame him if he can't ever get that color again. But we actually cut off just a tiny bit and used it on this. So that's what that is. Kind of cool. Looks a little like camo from far away, so I'm not really digging on that, but Wes is done. He's moving over to Alright, sorry guys, we're back. Going back to Wes now.
Oh.
So, the machine's not plugged in. Obviously, you should check that first. But what Wes has done is actually, what are these called when they're set up like that?
Why'd you have to ask me? A fence.
A fence so that you can keep it straight when you're going through.
Fence.
I
already measured. These are averaging about 5 millimeters. They're not cut exact. That's why we had them left over. As you can see, that one's kind of thin.
Yeah, they're crooked.
But they average about 5 millimeters, so that's what I set the depth to on this. Is just under 5 millimeters. And if we were... The outside of this blade is 5 millimeters.
So, with that, how do you set it if somebody's just now getting a hold of the jigsaw?
I use these clamps here to set the wood. Put a ruler right up against the back here, which is...
somewhere else. Da-da-da.
Do it in front so y'all can see. Right at 5 millimeters.
Yep.
So, then I'll usually keep this down once I start cutting against it like this. But to start off, I usually just raise it up to where this will fit up under it. That way I can just slide it across the top and cut it. Just down here. Always save these pieces.
Yeah, you can do this really cool technique where you like laminate. You can just, laminating is gluing flat pieces of foam, whatever you may call it. You can also do it with wood and stuff together, and you can just stack them up, stack them up, stack them up, and then cut them down. You'd have a crazy, crazy ass thing. So Wes and I are saving all of our scrap pieces because we want to see what it does, just for shits and giggles.
All right, try this again. Alright, now, the reason I took these out, when we put this other pieces back in, it'll end up still being 8 inches. If you don't care about the length, you can leave these in there. You don't have to cut it out and put a fence up and all of that stuff. But if you want to keep it at 8 inches, you need to take these out. Because what you're doing is putting them in between these. Like so. Stay together. There we go.
So.
Then when you measure this out, it's still going to be 8 inches.
Ta-da! 8 inches. Good job.
If you left those in there, you're going to get like 8 and almost another inch.
Now, little tidbit, if you guys are working with, you know, you don't have a wood lathe, you don't have a jigsaw, you don't have any of that stuff.
A handsaw and a normal lathe will do. A power wrapper, if you have it strapped to the table, everything level, perfect scenario, it will do all of this.
That we're going to thread.
Yeah, thread will work if you cut it.
You can use a X-Acto knife.
Put it on a mandrel and just take your thread and go across it, and it'll make a cut for you.
Mm-hmm. So it can be done on just your wrapper. You don't have to have all of the big equipment. You just have to make sure you've got a strong enough motor for it when you're doing the sanding process.
Okay. First thing I need to do is drill these bigger.
Yeah.
Where do we put the drill? There it is.
Where is the challenge rod?
Up yonder. You probably have to climb down. Climb up there and do it.
I'm going to go get our challenge rod down that we did for the show last year. And the only reason I'm doing it is because I wanted to show you what that grip does. No, I can't reach it. It's too short. So, y'all are going to get some random viewing of the shop while I climb up here into our ceiling to get our rods down. Okay. Hope everybody's Friday's going good. Why did I do it this way? This is not smart, Mary. Fuck my life. Hold on. Y'all gonna stare at the concrete for a minute. Sorry.
did it.
I'm trying to do it one-handed, and all the guides that we got on it, it's just not. And I kind of forgot it was doing multiple piece rod. Well, see?
What?
When you just take your hooks off your rods. Huh?
You need the other half?
No, I just need the grip. Oh, almost dropped it. Alright, so that's the grip we put on here last year. That red that we turned. We just turned it ever so slightly as it went around. Did that for that and back here on the butt. Then we trimmed it out with black, and that's actually gray. But that's some of the stuff you can do with that kind of wood grain or swirled EVA. And if you're trying to cut even sections of trim out of things like this, just ignore me. I actually read in the Clemens book that people were making their own measured cutting devices that would do 4 or 5 of these cuts at one time, and they were like gluing or putting X-Acto knife blades on the end of a tool and tying them on there and putting epoxy so they wouldn't break. So there's multiple ways to do it.
Alright. We're going to do some contact cement.
Ooh, getting a contact high. So what are you doing?
I am using a cut piece of foam to cover the area that is going to be joined together. And I try not to have a big pool inside the grip.
You're dripping.
I know.
Please don't get it on your shoes.
Won't be the first time. Won't be the last. There we go. Okay. Just a cover coat. You don't want it sopping wet. You need that to soak in. Then you're going to do the next one.
You have to put contact cement on the surfaces that are being glued together.
Dripping again.
Mm-hmm.
What I usually do, and it's how I learned, one side, let it all dry, then flip all those pieces over and do that side again, and then let it dry again.
Okay, it wants me to hold the tablet way up at the ceiling. Yep, that's where it wants me to hold it. Right there.
You want the step stool?
My arms are going to be mad
Working
in
out.
shape, yeah.
And it ain't got to be exact. Like, you ain't got to spend 10 minutes on it.
Now this is the boring part of grip making, is putting all the glue on. Not the fun part.
Had we been more prepared, we'd have had a piece already glued
Yeah,
to
but
continue. Kind of like they do in the cooking shows.
yeah.
Where
Step
shit's
one,
already ready.
step
Here,
2.
set it for 30 minutes. Oh wait, it's done.
Yep.
Let's see how it turned out.
Maybe we need to be a bit more organized and prepared, babe.
Well, today was a day.
Yeah, I was actually working on a wedding shower for tomorrow with my mom. I've been over there all day, which is why we got home so late. Because we're working on multiple shit. Yeah, you can use the brush that comes with the jar. We just,
What brush?
the little jars.
Oh, yeah, this didn't come
Remember
before.
that little jar that we had to try it first time?
Yeah.
Yeah, those brushes are fine. I mean, when you start using like these big,
When you start doing a lot of them, it's gone.
yeah, that one will not last through a whole grip.
Go
But
ahead and just invest.
that was a scrap piece of EVA that we had, and we just started using it to apply. It actually is really nice because you see how disgusting it looks, but that stuff you can just literally peel it off whenever it's dry.
Yeah. Once you get like a layer on it, just
Yep, just yank it off.
done.
So he's going back now and he's putting the second coat on. You have to put 2 coats.
You don't have to, but 2
We
coats
always
is
do.
better than 1.
I feel like 2 coats is better. Damn it. I lowered my arms.
This is funny. It's sticky.
Alright, so trying to multitask here because this part is kind of like laying thread. It's a little boring. I'm going to go back to this grip. Once I get everything out of my way. Obviously, very, very ugly grip.
It became a test piece.
It's a test piece. Testing to see what we could do.
Couldn't do.
Jimmy, I'm not 100% sure if it would fail with only 1 coat. Never tried it.
Yeah. Feel free to try. Well, I take that back. I have skimped before. And just quickly try to put it together and did like 1 thick coat. And there were spots that would open up on me.
We learned from Billy. Billy says 2 coats. We do 2 coats. He's the one that, you know, shared all this information and is the originator with the EVA. Well,
he's
not the originator, but he's the one that has been the big push for EVA in the rod building world. Only one that I know of other than Mud Hole that sells blocks, and you can only get the ones from Mud Hole in like black, red, green, and blue, I think. And they're really dark colors. They're really dark.
Alright,
anyways,
let's get it dry.
So what I was saying was with this grip, we were where do you guys get the cement or glue? Just Home Depot or Lowe's?
We got it at Home Depot.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can buy it at Home Depot, Lowe's, any hardware store like that. You should be able to get that kind of glue. Walmart probably has it too.
And yeah, you have to glue it to the blank once everything's done. You can use contact cement. A lot of people do. We use Rod Bond most of the time, the 10-minute.
We're not 100% sure that we're as awesome as a one shot.
I'm not coordinated enough to do contact cement. I don't want to risk it because you're literally going to get 1 chance.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you do it wet and clamp it. If you do it where it's a dry cement on the blank and a dry in the grip, you're going to be using acetone, and you got 1 shot. Once you stop, that's it.
So, back to this. This can be done on the preformed grips that you would order from anywhere that you use as a splier. This was actually done with a file. They have, where are those files at?
Right here.
Oh, thank you, darling. I'm so glad you were prepared. They were done with a file. So, you know, you can have this already installed on your blank if you want to add just a little bit of customization. You know, here's some files. This is what we bought. Works for wood, metal, and plastic. There's also a triangular file that's not in there, but, you know, you can just play around and see what kind of things happen. I've also seen people do this and take thread and wrap it in there and then put epoxy over it. I'm not sure what kind of epoxy, if it's the one that we use, you know, for our finish, or if it's a different kind of epoxy, but that's an option. Oh, there's the triangular file. It has, you know, and you just set it down there and you just put it in a groove and just whoop, and it goes out. That's different things that you can do. So if you, let's say that you don't have access to get different colored EVAs and you want to be able to add color to your things, that's an easy way to do it. And you're not, huh? And I'm sure you could probably come up with other things to fill it with, you know, like marbling or anything crazy. You know, you have to test stuff, see if it works, and if it works, roll with it. If it don't, Try again. It's where all these came from. We're waiting on this to dry. Dry. What else? These. So, we got these tools actually at a place in Myrtle.
Yeah, it's across from the outlets on 501. It's Tool World something.
We've never been there. It's someplace that was cheap. They had a wood turning set there. I think we paid $100 for this.
Yep.
And that was everything. And it was ash handles, blah, blah, blah. You know, you don't need all this. We use one of these all the time, and that's this one. Not that one. I can't see with the thing on there. This one. That's the only one we use. We haven't played with the other ones. But if we ever decide to get into wood turning,
We've messed with them, and it's all just different shapes.
yeah, they take different chunks out and stuff. But if you're turning one, you really need that angle.
You don't have to order the straight one too.
Yeah, and the straight one.
It's just a chisel and a skew chisel. Speaking of instructing.
Almost dry.
I'll show them how I was talking about it.
What? What? For what? What are you doing?
Sharpening.
Oh. You don't need to sharpen that right now. What brand is it?
Red is what? Oh, weldwood
You talking about the rubber cement? It's Weldwood.
is what we use.
I think Australia is called...
Oh, I can't remember. Can't remember to save my life.
I can't remember what it is in Australia. It's a really cool name. I can't remember what it is. But that's the brand contact cement. Gilbert, what are you talking about? Use what with the wrapper? Wes is just doing a quick demonstration of how you sharpen your tools.
How I sharpen it.
How he sharpens it.
How I was told to sharpen it, rather.
Oh.
By,
While we're still waiting on this to
by a
dry.
Greek restaurant owner down in Florida.
Some of you may know the... If you're in the NERBs, you know who we're talking about.
Between that and YouTube videos. Alright. Can you see if I make a... Can you zoom in on that?
What are you doing?
Right about there. Alright.
Connection's weak.
Can you see that puddle forming?
Mm-hmm.
You want to lean it up right until that puddle forms. You'll feel it. It'll kind of rock.
Connection's weak.
And just push it. Keep track of how many, because you always want to do it the same amount every time.
Would you be able to use that tool that you're using right now on a wrapper to turn the EVA?
Maybe. The CPW will probably handle it. The Renzetti might, and the Alps might, but I wouldn't do it on a pack bay or anything with a plastic chuck. I would not try it on at all. I've never tried it because we got a steal on that wood lathe.
Yeah, wood lathe we got off of Craigslist. Whoop whoop, Craigslist. Gotta love people getting rid of their junk. I mean, Gilbert, if you're not using blocks, there's not
that much pressure.
There's not really that much need for you to have this kind of tool. But you're not trying to turn the thing.
You're not trying to knock an edge off. You're not taking square to round.
Yeah.
You're already round, so you don't really need this.
Yeah. This tool is just whenever you're working with blocks. When you're doing rounds, you can do
I'll
everything.
show you. I won't even use this. I'll just use sandpaper.
Yeah, he's just playing around with that while he's waiting on that thing to dry.
Because some people don't. I didn't know how to sharpen this before. Had no idea.
Yeah, so if you're working with blocks, you need a tool that will take it from an edge to the round, which is what you sand after that point, which is, oh, what is this tool? It's a chisel, right?
Skew chisel.
It's a skew chisel. You can get it in any...
All the woodworking shops.
All woodworking shops, anywhere. Whew. Yeah, I agree, Jimmy. I would not do it on a regular wrapper. Not with that. You would burn your motor up in a heartbeat. So, I think it's about time.
The second coat.
These, you can glue them up.
Side. No, the other side.
Yep.
Well, I can glue.
I'm saying you can stick those together.
Yeah. All right. The reason I lay them out like this is so I can just pick them up.
I gotta go up again.
So.
He's also attempting to do what it is so difficult, and that's lining up a circle.
When there's no light inside of it.
And making sure the inside matches. You don't want to glue your arm to the thing.
That's not fun. Alright, so now that piece is like that. Take your next piece. Try your darndest to get it centered. Much as possible.
Jimmy, I'm not 100% sure if he did give a reason for letting the cement to dry other than it's a little bit easier to work with.
If you let it dry, it sticks immediately. If you don't, you'll need to clamp it because it's gonna move around. It's still not tacky.
Yeah.
If you let it dry, I mean it's, and my hands are covered in contact cement. But when you put it up against, it immediately bonds.
I mean, we tried it. We did.
That's what we did at Mark's.
That's what we did. That's what we did with these. We actually had to clamp them while we were at Mark's because we were working. This is also a little fun tidbit. We're working in a different humidity level. So the
humidity level and elevation.
And both of those factors take a toll in how things dry and how they operate. So how things perform up there for him don't perform the same way as they do down here. But this block was clamped together, taped together.
That's why we can have this.
Yeah, we can have classic coat. Just kidding, Mark.
Sorry.
Taped together and clamped together, and it held. There was no issues with it. I mean, you can see it's glued up. Like it's not. It's just ugly as heck. I got a rude word, but I'm not gonna use it on live. But I mean, it's
a turd.
And you know, we could. We'll see. We can't even get it to bend or pop. So both ways would work. I just prefer this way because it's easier for me to make sure things are lining up. So yeah, we were trying to get them to dry on the way home from Virginia.
West Virginia.
West Virginia. Yes, it is the truck vent grip.
Yeah, that's the truck vent. And where's the other one?
It's right there.
Over there.
Yeah, these are the truck vent grips. Massive fail, but these were cut.
They're cool, but
I started playing around with this actually.
Uh-oh, Tim, if you're watching,
He's not. But
better pay attention.
I was playing around with a little idea, and since these are scrap, I just kind of chew them up. Obviously, you guys can tell that because I did that to that, or Wes did that to that.
No such thing.
You did too. That was all you.
Did what?
You put all the.
Oh yeah.
You did that.
That was actually the first one we ever made by ourselves.
That's what I told him.
I didn't hear that. Sorry. I was too busy doing something else.
I noticed.
This is the boring part.
Yeah.
And we can't play music.
Yeah, I can't play music.
Boycott.
This is
or not
just
boycott because we need to use it, but we need to all write a letter to Facebook to allow us to play music.
This is when you know, grip clamps and stuff like that, rod clamps are handy when you're working on stuff like this. Like Jimmy would put it together.
See, because in a
slap
clamp,
it all together.
you
You could do it all
keep
at
going,
once.
do this side, put it on there, clamp it up. It's fine.
But it would take a little bit longer to dry that way. But you gotta do what works for you. Right now, this works for us, so this is the way we do it. There's nothing wrong with throwing it all together.
Nope. Plenty of people do it. We just don't have a clamp ready for it. Do you want to tell me about the spider?
What? There are other things that you can do other than just inlaying trim bands and stuff.
Completely.
I was, once again, playing around, and, actually, I'm going to put this. I'm trying to get to a place that I have somewhat of a clean, rods everywhere. I was playing around with a old technique that I read in a book, and what they used to do was take patterns, and they would cut them out with, at that time it was an X-Acto knife. I found a engraver or something, and I wanted to play around with it and see what it did.
That was the Dremel we used on that one.
Well, the Dremel was one of them, and then the engraver was another one, because I'd tested both of them. And
no, we don't clamp it after we do this because it's an instant bond. I'll show you here in a minute when those dry. And the mandrels, we got the mandrels from Billy. He was selling sets. I think he still is. I mean, they're solid steel. They're not going to break or anything like that.
You can also make your own mandrels if you want to. You just got to make sure you do them right.
Yeah. Have a machinist make them.
Yeah.
That way they're responsible.
Anyway, so I was cutting into the EVA, and what they used to do is they cut a pattern out, and then they would take another piece and they would insert it. Well, yeah, I do need you to hold this, unless is it dry?
Not yet.
It's not dry. And they would take a piece and insert it into, I don't think that's the right one, I think it's this one. They would glue it in. Now, obviously, if you're doing the rubber cement route, that would be really hard to do it while it was dry, because as soon as the edge out here touched it, you wouldn't be able to move it in anymore. I was, like I said, this is a rough cut. This is the first time I even did this. I haven't gone back to it since that day. It's actually not a bad thing. I was also thinking about filling it with something just to see what it would do. But that's another way to do, you know, additions to your grips. And then there's also what is called an overlay. I have no experience in that. Billy does, so if you were interested to find out what it is, then I would recommend going to some
He's got some videos and all of it.
He's also XL Rods on YouTube. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about it, go check that stuff out. It's really cool.
Don't do this in good clothes.
Acetone takes it off. Acetone. Acetone.
Alright, that's dry enough. Should this other side so we can get this thing on the thing.
I'm not really going to be hovering over you.
I want you just lean. Whatever. It's testes.
Any questions? You guys are doing pretty good about asking them as we go right now.
About to hold these things in front of the air conditioner.
Yeah, that's an option too, Nick. Putting acrylic in it would be pretty sweet.
Yeah. Jim Miller does it. One of the guys that just got in the group does it.
Yeah, it's Jim Miller.
Yeah.
But he's not doing an inlay with. He's just putting in a section.
Right. Yeah. He's basically doing like this with acrylic, but on a larger scale.
Yeah. But yeah, you can use all different kinds of types of material It's
Hell,
just,
you can use knife making material. Guys use birch bark with the foam.
Arnott's got some, I think.
Yeah, anything that you can cut and slice and is a comfortable grip material for the end user.
It's just when you're mixing materials like that, your consistencies of how things sand down change.
And you'll have to use a sanding block.
So a lot of times before you put in a different consistency, it's the same thing with cork. If you're adding something into a cork grip, you have to get the object that you're inserting into the cork somewhat close to the size that it is. Otherwise, your cork will sand down faster than your inlay will, and you'll end up with this horrible.
You have to sand the block.
Yeah, you gotta just basically ruin it. So that's the only thing. And I'm sorry if I'm shaking, guys, but we're working with a tablet tonight to see if it focuses any better, and it's making me hold my hands up in the air for the connection to stay. So, get a little bit of workout. What else? Cord?
Get the shark rod. Show them that. The weave and what you call it? Handle.
Let's see if I can get it.
Pause for intermission.
I don't know. Well, y'all are just travel with me. Sorry. I was trying to put you down so you wouldn't have to get, a little sick while we're walking around, but it's not working. Going back to the ceiling. Les wanted me to pull a rod down, so y'all are going to go back to staring at the floor for a minute. Oh my God.
You have to go that way.
Why are you going?
That's what she said.
Huh?
Huh?
What?
You said, how do I get this out? And that's what she said.
That's so awkward. That is so awkward. I hope y'all didn't hear that.
What?
I hope they didn't hear that.
Hold that.
Huh?
Hold that.
So, Wes wanted me to pull this down to talk about cord. Well, sorry, I keep forgetting you guys are looking at it straight. Hi, Will. So, this is a cord grip we did, how long ago?
This is before we got married.
Whoa, it's been a hot minute. It's back when we were dating. Just something different to look at while we're waiting on that crap to dry. This is Wes's shark rod that we built. And that was my very first weave. Oh, upside down sharks, how cute. It's upside down to us. Let's get on this side. Here we go.
Ignore my dirty hands. I have a day job.
Obviously, that weave, no,
Turn your tablet.
sorry. Obviously, that weave, not the greatest looking weave. We see all the gaps and stuff, but it was my very first one, so not too bad. Ernie said that's what she said.
What?
I don't know for what, but it's funny that we just said that too.
They're probably behind. God, that thing's dirty.
Yeah, it's been up there for a while.
Old school crutch player.
Chevron kind of we did. Trying to think if there's. Well, while we're waiting, just to fill some time, because this is one of the reasons why we were kind of dreading doing a grip one, because all the wait time with the dry. Let's talk about this rod. So that's the one that gave me a run for my money. All the stars and the color preserver has been added to it. And it's on a spiral. So as you look down at the flag's kind of like it's waving. Really cool. I didn't mean to do it. But I got 13 stars on there. Fun stuff. And then I finally figured out how to do at least a somewhat of a cheap version of the spiral that I was after, so kind of happy with it. Looks kind of cool. Be awesome once I get everything on it. And that one's to be built. We were waiting on a part to come in, and it's here now, and we can get started on the American flag. Do you guys sand to tamper the EVA? What is tamper?
Sand to taper?
You talking about taper the EVA?
Yes, we do. Once it's on the rod.
Yes. We do a final sanding, like when we're turning down. Do we have anything that we can turn? Do you want to turn that black and green one?
Okay, all the way. That one's going to be dry here in just a minute.
Well, we'll go with the other.
Because that'll take drilling and all that. Alright.
So yeah, we sand after we get everything glued up. Get it to it's almost to where we want it, and then we put it on the blank, install it, and then when I get done with the deco wrap and the guides and all that other stuff, that's when we do the final sanding on it. So that in case anytime that I'm using the grip as a ramp with the thread, whenever I have the cut, like where I'm cutting it off with the double sticky tape on the grips, if I accidentally cut into the EVA just slightly whenever I'm putting it on there, we can sand that blemish off.
This grip is going to be crooked as shit. Because I didn't. These are different sizes on each end.
Working with a crooked grip here. Well, one thing that we didn't do that does help in the beginning is if you draw a straight line that's in the middle of your grip all the way down. We probably should have done that first.
Like this? To
so
keep
that
it from
you
doing
have
this.
a line
What not to do.
to line it up.
Don't forget your line.
So when you went to cut it, you know, I'll mark on this one because it's crap. If this was the top of the grip that I was cutting down that line, I'd be marking a straight line. So when I cut it apart, I'd be able to know that this was A, or this was B, or this was C, and that section was D, etc. And I would know what order it went back in. Did not do a good job of explaining that properly in the beginning. Also helps you to line the grip up and keep it from doing the wave. You see how that line curves? On something that has that much color interacting with each other, it jumps out at you.
Alright. This is one of the mandrels. Nice
Okay.
little hole in the end.
What's the tape on the mandrel for?
Because this is exactly the same size as the hole I bored.
Okay.
It's not a little bigger, it's not a little smaller, it's exactly the same size. So this will just slide around. So as soon as you put sandpaper to it, that's what it's going to do. It's just going to slide. So take a layer of tape and shove it down on there. I can't really turn it. It will turn if you put enough pressure on it, but it also straightens that grip up a little.
Look at our crooked grip. That has a lot to do with the different sizes of those inserts too, because we literally grabbed those out of the scrap pile. So he's coming over here. At this point, this is when you could put it on your
Power wrapper.
On your power wrapper. Would you have it on the blank, or would you have it on something else?
I would try to put it on a rod of some sort.
Scrap
for
rod?
this part. Scrap blank, just a stainless rod. Because you don't really need the mandrel part of it with the hole. So you can just put it in your stand and just take a piece of blank.
So anything that will fit in the chuck.
Yeah,
basically.
essentially.
Just easier for us because we have the big equipment to do it. Another thing too, on this one we don't have to, but if you were doing it on your wrapper, you would have to do this, or I would highly recommend it. You see how far those trim bands stick out from the actual grip? You would probably want to try to cut as much of that off as possible, whether it was with a jigsaw or
bandsaw or X-Acto, razor blade, something.
You know, but you would want to try to be able to cut that off to where it wouldn't jut out so much. On this one, because we have a wood lathe, it can take a beating. So we can do that.
Chef class 101.
You got your tool?
What tool?
Or are you just using sandpaper? Okay. The CPW comes with a tool rest, or you can get a tool rest.
You can get one, and you can with the Alps now too. They just brought out their their toolkit to do rods, and pretty sure our catalog's inside. Otherwise, we can show it.
But yeah, Alps has a toolkit that you can add on to the wrapper.
Pretty sure they had it last year, but they changed a couple things.
So you can actually do this on your wrapper. They supply the things that you need.
Our new catalog is this side. Don't think we don't have one. They've got it. I'll put some picture later of it. And I'll lay these out so y'all can see them. Billy sells these, by the way. If you want some. Plugging the shit out of him today.
Yeah, we are plugging him a lot.
Hope you're okay with it, Billy. If not, I apologize. We got 80, 120, 150, 220. On some of the things, I've had to use some higher grit, 2000. We've also got just the normal Home Depot, I think it's called Gator, 120, 80, and 220, and a sanding block.
Sanding block's a necessity. Just a scrap piece of wood. That's literally what a sanding block is. Could be anything.
And I love this chuck. So 4-jaw. I think we got it on sale for like $99 at Woodcrafters.
So what are you starting with?
I'm going to start with 80. As soon as I make sure this works. Alright, I've got it up as high as it'll go. It's basically the same way you'll need to do on your power wrapper. Get it as level and balanced as you can so you can go as fast as you can. See the buildup that's happening there? Try to go to a different spot, because all that's going to do is change the grit of your sandpaper. The more it builds up, the more it changes. Alright, we got it down basically smooth. Go to your 120.
Pressure are you putting down?
Enough. I mean, it's hard to say, honestly. I found out just recently that I was applying too much pressure.
Too much pressure?
If it's heating up, you're going to have problems. This can also happen from too much pressure. I'm pretty sure it's more of the ones like this where it's taking chunks out. A bad blade will actually be the one where a whole chunk right here is missing. Let me grab that one.